Okay, so you want to be a florist, but you have no idea where to start. I understand you. I was you. I am here to help because, let's be honest, the floral design industry is elusive, it's kind of secretive, and honestly, it can feel a little mean girlish. I'm just calling it like I see it. There's no floral design degree. There are very few floral design degrees in college. It's just like this world that it's so hard to figure out how to get into and how to enter. And when you do try to enter it, you're kind of met with the question of, well, do you have professional experience? And if you answer no, then they're like, okay, we'll go get some experience, but you can't get the experience without getting hired. It's one of those like chicken or the egg type things. I've had so many questions. So many of you have asked me, how did I become a florist? How do you do it? And we're gonna talk about everything that I did in today's video and what you can do to set yourself up for success on this path, because floral design is beautiful. It's such a blessing to be able to do something creative, to be able to do something with my hands. I really love it, and I want to help you guys and give you the help that I didn't really get until the very end. So first, let me give you a little backstory. It was like January of last year, and I had been off of YouTube for a few months. If you guys didn't watch my last Coastal Diaries video, I actually talked about how I was a full-time YouTuber from 2019 until 2023, and then I spent all of 2024 taking a break and just removing myself from social media entirely. And so at the beginning of 2024, I was a few months into my YouTube break, and I didn't really know what I was doing. Like, I really was unsure of where my path was going to take me, what I was interested in. I had a few job interviews, because one thing that being on YouTube will provide you is opportunities in the workforce, and that's something that I have come to experience, is that people, when they see that you've had success on social media, they are very quick to want to hire you. So I had a few job interviews at the beginning of last year for 2 jobs that I really wasn't that interested in, but I went through with the interviews because I really didn't know what else I wanted to do. But I was so convicted that I did not want to dive into another soul-sucking 9-to-5 that I turned down both of those jobs and decided to pursue something different. I decided to pursue flowers, and specifically flower farming. The floral design part came after. I was on TikTok one day and I saw this girl, or this woman, she's a woman, she has 2 kids, she's just young. And she was talking about how she started a flower farm on 1 acre of land that they have out in like Virginia or something. And it was in that moment that it clicked for me that that's what I wanted to do. I had started growing flowers in 2021. I wrote a whole blog post on this, which I will link down below. But I started growing flowers in 2021. I loved it. I fell in love with growing. I fell in love with flowers even more than I already loved them. Like, I've always loved flowers, but once I started growing them myself, I really started to take to it. So I started in 2021 just with like a little pack of calendula seeds. I wrote about this. I've talked about it multiple times. And from there, I just tried a bunch of different things. I started growing tulips, I started growing zucchini, and then I moved into zinnias. And I just found that I kind of had a bit of a green thumb. Like, I was able to just know kind of like what the flowers needed without doing a whole bunch of research, and I just loved growing. I just loved growing. There was, in 2023, I had zucchini coming out of my ears. I had so much. We were literally shipping it to the other side of the country where the rest of my family lives, zucchini bread, because I had so much zucchini and I was cooking zucchini bread all the time. So I was really into growing. I had a passion for it that I didn't really know that I had until I saw that TikTok, and I was like, wait, what if I could turn my passion for growing into like my next gig? I just thought it was the most brilliant idea. Now, at the time, and in order to get all this context, like, you would have to go through all my old Patreon videos and stuff, because at the time, my husband and I were living with family. We had had a crazy experience. We got robbed, whatever. We moved in with the family. And my family has a 1/3 of an acre of property, of land. there's a lot of privilege involved here in the fact that like we even have this much land, which I know to some people a third of an acre probably doesn't sound like much, but in California, especially in the Bay Area, that's a good amount. Like it's especially enough to grow if you want to do like micro farming. So I feel very lucky and very privileged and very blessed that we have that land, because without it, I wouldn't have been able to do this. I would have had to find land somewhere else and then rent from that person, pay that person so that I could farm on their land, but luckily we have family land. I got the idea in my head. I went to my family and I said, this is what I would like to do. And they looked at me and they were like, this is on brand. This makes sense. Here she goes again, making up another job. And I was like, no, like I really think that we can do this. I think I can do this. So I brought it to my husband and he's super supportive, and he got to work right away building raised beds and like doing all of that element of it. And then I went into more like, what do I want to grow? Like getting seeds, learning about stuff in terms of like what to grow, what to sell, and everything like that. Long story short, we start this micro farm. I'm ordering seeds, my husband's building beds, you know, we're getting all the soil, we're getting everything together, we're talking to people. One thing about farmers, and I say this specifically because especially farmers, they're so friendly and open and willing to talk to you about farming. Like they will chat it up with you. They want to talk about soil, they want to talk about permaculture, they want to talk about all sorts of things. They want to talk about gophers, like they want to talk about anything that has to do with farming. And so that's one thing that I learned, is that you can just bring up the fact that you're farming or that you're interested in farming, and farmers would love to talk to you about farming. We're in this process, we're building this farm, and one day, and at the same time, I'm also like, okay, I also would really like to work at a flower shop. I'd love to be a florist. Now, here's where things got a little tricky, because like I said, it can be a little cliquey and a little mean girlish. I went to 2 different flower shops in my area with just saying like, hey, like, are you guys hiring? I would be interested in like working, I'll do whatever, like I just want to learn. Both people turned me down. The first person turned me down because I didn't have the experience. And then the second person, they had this big help wanted sign in the window and they said, send all your stuff to this email, like you don't need any experience, we're taking whoever. I sent all of the arrangements I'd ever done, never heard anything back. That person does kind of have a reputation for being kind of mean though. So I was feeling a little down, but my husband and I at this time, we were also trying to find our next apartment. So we're driving around and there was this one flower shop that I had driven by a couple times that I could never figure out what their hours were, and so they were never open. But on this particular day, they were open. And so I'm like, hey, can we go inside and like just see what they have in there? I've always wanted to go inside, and now that we're like in this flower business, I'm curious like what they have. So we go inside, we're looking around, and sure enough, it's the owner who's there. And my husband starts chatting him up and is like, hey, we're starting a micro flower farm. Do you have any tips? You know, whatever. He's very chatty. He's like, do you have any tips? You know, anything you can share with us? Like, we just love to learn. The owner, who's now my boss, was super friendly, super nice, super open. Honestly, was like, yeah, like I would love to chat with you. And he like gave us free seeds, and he was like, you know, where are you growing? And we just like kind of hit it off right away. And so we're in the middle of this conversation and I'm like, hey, like if you ever need help in the shop, like if you're hiring, please let me know. Like I'd really love to work at a flower shop or at a florist. Or with a florist. And I was like, you know, I'll do anything. I will be your delivery driver. Like, I just want to get my foot in the door. And he was like, okay, yeah. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, send me like your contact information and like all your stuff. And I was like, okay. So I go home, I send him an email, and I, you know, send him all my arrangements that I've done, which are, you know, at that point very novice and are still very novice, but send him all this stuff. And he calls me in for an interview, which is really just like a kind of chill, get to know you kind of thing. And we're in the middle of this interview in the shop when, as we're chatting, the person who was his delivery driver walks in, it says like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And she quits. And then he looks at me and he's like, can you start tomorrow? And I'm like, Yes, that's how it started, was with me being a delivery driver. I didn't mind it at all. Like, I loved being around the flowers. I loved just getting to watch him work. And then I just also liked being in my car and listening to podcasts all day. Like, I really enjoyed it. Slowly but surely, it kind of morphed into me getting more responsibilities in the shop, me doing more arrangements, and to where I'm at a point now where I do arrangements every week, and I'm not just dropping off flowers, but I'm also learning, I'm hands-on, I'm also working in the shop, I'm like doing all sorts of stuff. And so it really was like a starting from the ground up kind of situation. But I'm so thankful to my boss for giving me the chance and for like seeing in me like the potential to get better at floral design. He honestly, I have to just say, he is probably one of the best floral designers that we have in this area. Like, I'm not joking. He's studied in France. Like, he's so good. And I just feel honored that I get to learn from him. And so looking back at the people who turned me down, now I'm so grateful because I genuinely get to learn from the best. And I can't imagine if either of those people had said yes before, I would not have had the immense learning experience that I've had in the past year. That's where we're at now. That's how I personally ended up in this world. That's kind of a very condensed version. But now let's talk about how you can do this and some of my tips and advice for how you can become a florist if you want to. The first thing that I would suggest is to take a couple master classes or a couple classes in person if you can. So like I said, there's really not a degree for floral design. There's design and then there's horticulture, but there really isn't like at a lot of schools, there really isn't like a floristry major or a flower shop major. I would suggest doing as much of your own research as humanly possible and taking as many classes online or in person as possible. The thing about being a florist, this is just gonna be like the honest truth. You just have to start telling people you're a florist. Like, honestly, I swear to you, you just have to start doing it because there really is no set path. And even before I started working with this florist and at this flower shop, I started making arrangements like on a weekly basis and posting them on Instagram to where I had not family members, but friends asking me, can you do this person's wedding? Can you do this person's baby shower? Like, I had people reaching out to me to do this because I just kind of decided. And that's kind of what you have to do. You just have to decide that you're a florist. That's it. And then just start making arrangements and then like just go forth and be like, I'm a florist now. Because honestly, it's very hard to get people to let you in and there's nowhere to really learn, so you just kind of have to decide. Once you make that decision, it is important to do everything you can to become like the best that you can possibly be at this craft. And so taking a masterclass, I took a floral design masterclass before I even got the job at the flower shop, and with what's the florist? What's his name? Maurice Harris. I took a masterclass with Maurice Harris. I loved it. I learned so much, and I'm so glad that I took that class because then I could take that information and kind of utilize it when I actually did get the job. But yeah, definitely take a masterclass or some sort of class to just get the basics of what you need to know. Because I think that there are some general basic things that you should know about flowers. You should know the names of them. You should know how to care for them. There's just some general information that you should have about flowers that you can get when you take these master classes. So you can take some online. You can also pay for some of the ones in person. However, those can get really pricey. Florists, again, they work for themselves. They have to make a living. And so a lot of their workshops can run you $1,500, which not everyone's rolling like that, and not everyone wants to spend that kind of money, especially right at the beginning. So I would suggest doing something on the more affordable end. Watch YouTube videos. There are so many flower design tutorial YouTube videos on here that you can watch. Follow people on Instagram who are doing floral design tutorials. Like, don't just follow people who are like, I buy myself flowers every week. Like, actually follow people who are floral designers and learn from, that's my husband, and learn from them as much as possible. My second piece of advice, if you're interested in becoming a florist, is to do what I did and just start asking around. Like I'm sure there are flower shops in your area. There might not be that many, but you can go in and just say, hey, like, is there anything I can help you with? Are you hiring? You know, and if they say like, oh, well, what's your experience? You can just say, I don't have that much professional experience, but I do arrange for myself and my friends and family. And just say that, because honestly, the way these people act like you should freaking have made flowers for the President of the United States before you can approach them is kind of ridiculous. So just say that you've made arrangements for yourself, for friends and family, but make sure that you have photos to back that up. So like if you've done arrangements and you have arrangements that you're proud of, take photos of them, take pictures, and make sure that you bring that with you when you arrive at various, flower shops to ask for a job. So with that in mind, if going to the flower market or even just Trader Joe's or your grocery store every week to get a variety of flowers to start playing around and seeing what you like, if that is all that you can do in the beginning, do that. Do what you can. Just get your hands on the flowers. Get your hands dirty, for lack of a better word, and start arranging, start messing around with color theory and seeing what colors go well together and things like that. That's another thing that you can take a course in. It's like basic design principles and color principles and things like that. I don't think that we need to get into like too much of the businessy side of stuff in this video. I think a lot of you are probably just interested in like the bare bones beginning sort of introduction to floral design sort of thing. So those are my first like most important tips. And then in addition to that, like all the other stuff starts to kind of fall into place where like once you've been arranging once a week, let's say, and you're taking really beautiful photos of your arrangements every week, now you have a portfolio that you can bring in and you can share with them. Also, utilize social media. If you want to be if you want to work at a flower shop, then do what I did, walk in and say like, can I help you out? If you want to be your own florist, that's a whole other can of worms. I don't even think I'm qualified to make that video because I am barely my own florist. Like I do events and such, but like for the most part, I work at the flower shop and I do flowers for my boss's flower business. So I don't know if I'm well equipped to talk about that. However, but I will say, one thing that I've noticed and that I've seen florists talk about a lot online is utilizing social media. A lot of people, like I said, they just kind of decided they wanted to be a florist and then they started putting their arrangements on TikTok, putting their arrangements on Instagram Reels, and next thing you know, they have orders coming in and things like that, and people are interested in working with them. It really is like a hustle because you have to be doing so many things at the same time. You have to be doing your own marketing, you have to be doing your own education, learning about flowers, you have to, at some point doing your own delivering. Like there are a lot of moving parts if you want to be your own florist, but if you just want to get your hands wet, then I would suggest finding a florist in your area and just trying to get a job and learning as much as you can from them. Because that's kind of what I'm doing right now as well, is like for the last year, I've learned so much just from working at a flower shop and working with my boss that like this information you can't really learn in a class. Like it really is like you learn as you go, and I'm learning so much. And so if you're like, I want to be my own florist in like 3 years time, then I would suggest trying to find a part-time gig or a contracted gig or whatever with a florist in your area. And you can also volunteer. You can also say like, if you have the time, there are people at our shop who only come in once a week, and there are people who volunteer. Like you can just say like, I just love flowers, I want to be around flowers, like do you have any space for a volunteer or something like that? And chances are they're gonna say yes, because this stuff is no joke. Like it looks really cute and pretty on the outside, but it is actually very, very labor intensive work. And then finally, another thing that you can utilize once you're in the groove of like making your arrangements and you've got your social media up and you're doing that, this is something that I did twice last year actually, is you can do pop-ups and you can invite people to come to your pop-up, invite your friends to come to wherever, some location, your house, your apartment, the park, wherever, and just showcase like, these are my arrangements and they're like $15 a bunch or whatever, And that's a great way to get the word out. And also when you do a pop-up and you collaborate with like other businesses, your business grows. So I did a pop-up last year with the city, actually. It was like a citywide, street-wide pop-up sort of thing. I was the only flower vendor, which was great. But I connected with this other shop and this other person who now we're all friends on Instagram, and like we talk about like when's the next pop-up and things like that. And so that's another way that you can sort of like get the word out about your new business venture, is by doing pop-ups. And you can either host them yourself or you can, you know, apply for some in your area. But those are my tips, and I hope this video was helpful. I tried to remember as many things as possible, but honestly it's really difficult because the floral industry is so elusive. Like no one really knows how to get in, and that just makes it hard to know exactly like how to become a florist when no one actually knows how to become a florist. So this is just what I did. This is what worked for me, and hopefully you got some value from this video. I'm going to leave linked down below all of the florists that I follow on Instagram and TikTok, and the people that I love to learn from. I will link those all down below. And if you have any other questions, feel free to leave a question in the comments. I will try to respond to everybody. But again, like I'm still new at this, and I feel lucky that I even got in, because yeah, it's not easy. But I think if you're really passionate about it, and you really love it, and you really love flowers, and you love being around them, and it's not just because you want to like live a cute like book talk kind of life, then you're gonna be fine, and people will feel that, and they'll feel your passion, and they'll welcome you with open arms, hopefully. That is it for this video. I don't usually do a sit down and chit chat kind of video on this channel, so I hope it was, I hope you liked it, and I hope you learned something. I'm gonna go. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel and like this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.